The first time I heard the whispers, I was arranging wild lavender on my mother's grave. Too frail, they said. Voices carried on the autumn wind like dry leaves. Won't survive the claiming. I pretended not to hear them, focusing instead on the delicate purple stems between my fingers, remembering how Mother had taught me to weave them just so. Tight enough to hold, loose enough to breathe. Like relationships, she'd said. Like survival. The village of Blackthorn existed in the shadow of ancient traditions. Our valley, enclosed by mountains that scraped the sky with jagged teeth, had belonged to both humans and wolf shifters for centuries. Peace existed only through the claiming, a ritual where the Alpha King would select his mate from among the village's unmarried women. The chosen one would bridge both worlds, ensuring another generation of uneasy coexistence. I wasn't supposed to be a candidate. At 22, I was older than most girls who participated. But with the harvest failing and tensions rising between our communities, the council had expanded the selection pool. Even sickly, unremarkable Alara Thorn would be presented before the Alpha King. "Better you than no one," my stepfather had muttered last night, his eyes never meeting mine as he sharpened his hunting knife. "Though I doubt he'll glance twice at you. Your mother made the mistake of birthing a sparrow when the wolves need a hawk." I traced the weathered stone of Mother's grave marker, the last of the lavender tucked securely against the granite. "I wish you were here," I whispered, my voice small in the vast cemetery that stretched toward the forest edge. A leather cord hung around my neck, attached to a peculiar silver pendant, a crescent moon embracing a small amber stone, Mother's final gift. "When you feel lost," she'd told me, as death slowly claimed her, "remember that even the smallest flame can illuminate the darkest night." I'd never understood what she meant. The pendant wasn't particularly valuable or beautiful, just strange, occasionally warm against my skin when I was frightened or alone. "Alara." The sharp voice cut through my reverie. Margot, the village elder's daughter, stood at the cemetery gate, her red hair whipping in the wind, her expression a study in poorly concealed contempt. "The preparations begin, though I don't know why they bother with you." I rose slowly, my joints stiff from kneeling too long on the cold ground. A persistent cough had weakened me through the summer, leaving me thinner than ever. Next to Margot's robust health and fierce beauty, I must have looked like a ghost. "I'm coming," I said, brushing dirt from my worn dress. The fabric hung loosely on my frame, another reminder of my inadequacy. The preparation hall buzzed with nervous energy when we arrived. 23 women, each hoping to become the Alpha's mate, each certain they possessed what he would desire. The air was thick with perfumed oils and anxiety. Elder Karina, withered and sharp-eyed, assessed us as we entered. Her gaze lingered on me, and something like pity, or perhaps it was curiosity, flickered across her ancient features. "Come here, child," she beckoned, and the room fell silent. All eyes turned to me as I approached her, trying not to limp. My right leg had never healed properly after childhood fever. She circled me slowly, muttering under her breath. Then, unexpectedly, her hand shot out to grasp my pendant. The moment her fingers touched it, she withdrew as if burned. "Where did you get this?" she demanded, her voice suddenly tense. "It was my mother's," I replied, confusion clouding my thoughts. Elder Karina's eyes narrowed. "Your mother, Lyra Thorne?" I nodded, increasingly uncomfortable under the collective stare of the room. "Interesting." She released the pendant, which fell back against my chest with a soft thud. "Ladies, attend to your preparations. The ritual begins at sundown." Hours passed in a flurry of activity. We were bathed in water infused with sacred herbs, our hair combed and styled, our bodies dressed in ceremonial white gowns that symbolized purity and new beginnings. Throughout it all, I remained silent, observing how the others preened and plotted. "I heard the Alpha King is more beast than man," whispered Fiona, a merchant's daughter with olive skin and calculating eyes. "They say he's killed men for merely looking at him wrong." "He hasn't taken a mate in 5 years," another girl added. "Not since Queen Selene died in childbirth." "Along with the heir," Margot interjected, her voice dropping. "They say he went mad with grief. That's why he's been so cruel to our village." I kept my thoughts to myself, focusing instead on the strange warmth emanating from my pendant. It had been happening more frequently as the day progressed, the amber stone seeming to pulse against my skin like a second heartbeat. Sunset approached with merciless speed. We were led in a solemn procession toward the Great Hall, a massive stone structure that straddled the boundary between the village and the forest territory claimed by the wolf shifters. Inside, flickering torches cast long shadows across walls adorned with tapestries depicting the history of our uneasy alliance. Village elders and pack officials lined the hall, their faces grim. At the far end, upon a dais of black stone, stood an empty throne carved from a single piece of ancient oak. The Alpha King had not yet arrived. We were positioned in a semicircle, facing the throne. I found myself at the very end of the line, partially hidden in shadow. Perhaps, I thought with equal parts relief and resignation, I might avoid notice altogether. A horn sounded, deep, resonant, sending vibrations through the stone floor. The massive doors at the side of the hall swung open. The collective intake of breath was audible as he entered. Alpha King Kieran Blackwood moved like darkness given form. Tall and imposing, his broad shoulders were draped in a cloak of midnight fur. His face, angular and severe, bore a scar that ran from his right temple to the corner of his mouth. A permanent sneer carved into otherwise striking features, but it was his eyes that arrested me. Amber gold, exactly the color of my pendant, now burning against my skin. He surveyed the room with cold detachment, his gaze sweeping over the candidates without interest. The pack officials flanking him shifted nervously. One, older than the rest, leaned to whisper something in the Alpha's ear. Kieran silenced him with a sharp gesture. "Let us be done with this charade," the Alpha King announced, his voice deep and resonant, filling the hall with commanding presence. "I have no interest in taking a mate. I participate in this ritual only to honor the treaty." Elder Karina stepped forward, her frail form somehow unwavering before his intimidating presence. "The treaty requires more than your presence, Alpha King. It requires your consideration. Our crops fail. Our children hunger. The balance must be restored through union." A muscle twitched in his jaw. "Then I shall consider," he replied, the words dripping with disdain. One by one, each candidate was called forward. Some approached with confidence, others with trepidation. The Alpha King remained unmoved, dismissing each with barely a glance. Margot lingered before him, her beauty undeniable, but he waved her away like an annoying insect. My pendant burned hotter against my skin as my turn approached. The pain became nearly unbearable, and I pressed my hand against it, trying to cool the metal through my gown. "Ilara Thorne," Elder Karina called finally. Whispers rippled through the assembly as I stepped forward. I heard someone snicker, another murmur. "She won't survive the night if he chooses her." I kept my eyes downcast as I approached, focusing on placing one foot before the other without revealing my limp. The stone beneath my feet seemed to pulse with each step, or perhaps it was just the thundering of my heart. When I reached the dais, I finally looked up. The Alpha King's face had transformed. Gone was the cold indifference. His amber eyes were wide, fixed on my pendant, then on my face, with an intensity that stole my breath. He rose from his throne in one fluid motion, descending the steps until he stood directly before me. "Where did you get that?" he demanded, echoing Elder Karina's earlier question. His voice was softer now, threaded with something I couldn't identify. "It was my mother's," I repeated, fighting the urge to step back from his overwhelming presence. "Your mother." His eyes narrowed. "What was her name?" "Lyra," I whispered. "Lyra Thorne." The hall fell completely silent. Even the torches seemed to still their flickering. The Alpha King's expression shifted through emotions too complex for me to decipher. Shock, disbelief, rage, and something that might have been hope, quickly extinguished. He reached out slowly, his hand hovering near my pendant, but not touching it. Heat radiated between us, and my skin prickled with awareness. Then, unexpectedly, he leaned closer, inhaling deeply near my neck. I froze, uncertain what this meant, but the reaction from the pack officials was immediate. Gasps, growls, murmurs of confusion. "Impossible," one hissed. The Alpha's eyes locked with mine, searching. penetrating. I felt as though he were looking through layers of my soul, seeking something hidden even from me. Then, he spoke a single word that changed everything. You. Before I could respond, he turned to address the assembly. I have made my choice. His voice rang with finality. Alara Thorne will return with me to the Packlands tonight. Chaos erupted. Village elders protested, pack officials argued amongst themselves, and the other candidates stared in disbelief and outrage. Margot's face contorted with fury. My stepfather pushed forward from the crowd, his expression thunderous. "This is absurd," he shouted. "Look at her. She's weak, sickly. She won't survive a single night among wolves." The Alpha King turned slowly to face him, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "You question my choice?" The quiet menace in his voice silenced every protest. My stepfather faltered but pressed on foolishly. "She's nothing. A burden. If you must take her, at least compensate us properly for losing even her meager labor." Something dangerous flashed in Kieran's eyes. With movements too fast to follow, he crossed the space between them, lifting my stepfather by his throat until his feet dangled above the ground. "She is mine now," the Alpha growled, his voice transformed, inhuman. "Speak of her that way again, and I will tear out your throat." He released my stepfather, who crumpled to the floor, gasping. Then Kieran turned to me, his expression unreadable once more. "The ceremony will be completed at the sacred grounds. We leave now." Elder Karina stepped forward again. "Alpha King, the traditional preparation period is waived," he interrupted. "I have made my choice. The treaty is fulfilled." Without warning, he swept me into his arms. I was too shocked to protest as he carried me from the hall, out into the cold night air. Behind us, arguments continued, but they faded as he strode purposefully toward the forest edge. "What are you doing?" I finally managed to ask, my voice small against the vastness of the night. He looked down at me, his amber eyes reflecting the moonlight. For a moment, something like vulnerability crossed his features. "Taking you home," he said simply, and continued into the darkness of the forest, carrying me toward an unknown fate while my pendant burned like a star against my skin. The forest at night was nothing like the sanitized stories I'd grown up hearing. There was no path, no breadcrumbs to follow home, just ancient trees looming overhead, their branches tangling like witches' fingers against the star-strewn sky. The Alpha King moved through the darkness with uncanny precision, carrying me as if I weighed nothing. I should have been terrified. Any sane person would be swept away by a man known for his cruelty, taken into forbidden territory where no villager had ventured in generations. Yet the fear I expected remained distant, overshadowed by the inexplicable warmth of my pendant and the strange sense that I'd traveled this route before. In dreams, perhaps. "You're quiet," he observed after we'd gone deep enough that Blackthorn's lights had long disappeared behind us. His voice rumbled through his chest against my side. "Would screaming help?" I asked, surprised by my own boldness. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face before disappearing behind his customary mask of indifference. "No. But most would try regardless. I'm not most people, clearly." His eyes dropped briefly to my pendant before returning to the path ahead. "Your mother, when did she die?" The question pierced through me, unexpected and raw. 7 winters ago, a wasting illness that no healer could remedy. His jaw tightened. "And your father?" "I never knew him. Mother said he died before I was born." We fell into silence again. The night sounds enveloped us, owls calling, small creatures rustling in the underbrush, the distant howl of what might have been wolves, or something altogether more human. My pendant pulsed steadily now, its heat no longer painful, but comforting, like sitting beside a hearth fire on a cold night. Gradually, the forest began to change. The trees grew larger, more ancient, their trunks twisted into impossible shapes. Luminescent fungi clung to the bark, casting an ethereal blue glow over our path. Strange flowers bloomed in the darkness, releasing sweet, intoxicating scents that made my head swim. "We're crossing the boundary," Kieran explained, noticing my wonder. "Few humans have seen these woods as they truly are. It's beautiful," I whispered, unable to contain my awe. He glanced down at me, surprise evident in his expression. Most find it unsettling. Most people fear what they don't understand. Something shifted in his demeanor, a softening so subtle I might have imagined it. "The sacred grounds are just ahead," he said, his voice lower. "I should warn you. What happens there will change you forever." A spike of anxiety finally pierced my strange calm. The claiming. What exactly does it entail? He stopped walking, setting me gently on my feet before a massive clearing. At its center stood a circle of standing stones, easily 3 times my height, their surfaces carved with symbols that seemed to move in the moonlight. The air here felt different, charged, expectant, as if the earth itself were holding its breath. "It's not what you've been told," Kieran said, his eyes fixed on the stone circle. "The village elders keep their secrets, as do we." He turned to face me fully. "The claiming isn't just a political arrangement, it's a binding of souls. Once completed, neither of us can ever take another mate." I swallowed hard, the implications sinking in. "Then why choose me? You didn't even know me before tonight." His expression darkened. "Didn't I?" Before I could question him further, he reached out, his fingers hovering just above my pendant. "May I?" Hesitantly, I nodded. His touch was surprisingly gentle as he lifted the pendant, examining the amber stone in the moonlight. "Do you know what this is?" I shook my head. "It's a moonstone infused with the blood of a royal wolf." His eyes met mine, searching. "My mother's blood. This pendant belongs to the Queen of the Northern Pack, a position that has remained empty since my mother's death 25 years ago." My mind reeled. "That's impossible. My mother had this her entire life." "She gave it to me before she died, did she?" His voice was soft, dangerous. "And did she also tell you that you were fully human?" The question knocked the breath from my lungs. "What are you saying?" Instead of answering, he released the pendant and stepped back. "There's a test. If I'm wrong, nothing will happen, and I'll return you to your village with appropriate compensation for the inconvenience. And if you're right..." His eyes gleamed in the darkness. "Then everything you believe about yourself is a lie." He gestured toward the stone circle. "The sacred grounds will reveal the truth. All you need to do is step into the center." I looked from him to the imposing monoliths, doubt and curiosity warring within me. My entire life had been defined by weakness, by the constant reminder that I was less than those around me. Yet here stood the Alpha King, looking at me as if I contained something precious, something powerful. "What if I refuse?" I asked, needing to know I had a choice. Then I miscalculated greatly, and we both returned to lives of isolation. Something vulnerable flashed in his eyes. "But I don't think I'm wrong. Not about this. Not about you." My pendant hummed against my skin, urging me forward. With a deep breath, I took my first step toward the circle, then another. My damaged leg dragged slightly, a familiar reminder of my frailty, yet something pulled me onward. Curiosity, destiny, or perhaps just the desperate hope that I might be more than the village had always believed. As I crossed the threshold between the first 2 standing stones, the air thickened. My skin prickled with awareness, every nerve ending suddenly alert. The symbols carved into the monoliths began to glow with soft blue light, illuminating the clearing. I continued forward, drawn to the center where a flat stone altar rose from the earth. When I reached it, I turned back to look at Kieran, who remained at the edge of the circle, his expression tense with anticipation. "What now?" I called to him. "Place your hand on the altar," he instructed. "And remember who you are." The stone felt cool beneath my palm, smooth as water. For a moment, nothing happened. Then pain, white-hot and all-consuming, shot through my body. I cried out, trying to pull away, but my hand seemed fused to the altar's surface. The agony intensified, centering in my chest, my limbs, my very bones. I was dimly aware of Kieran shouting something, of movement at the circle's edge, but I couldn't focus on anything beyond the fire racing through my veins. My vision blurred, then sharpened with frightening clarity. Sounds became more distinct, the rustling of leaves a mile away, the heartbeat of small creatures burrowing underground. Kieran's ragged breathing as he watched. The pendant against my chest grew molten, seeming to sink into my skin, becoming part of me. I screamed as memories not my own flooded my consciousness. A woman with my eyes running through these same woods, a baby clutched to her chest, blood on snow, promises whispered in the dark, a choice made in desperation. Then, as suddenly as it began, the pain vanished. I collapsed to my knees, gasping. My body felt different, stronger, lighter, as if a lifetime of illness had been washed away in an instant. I looked down at my hands in wonder. The skin seemed to shimmer slightly in the moonlight, and my nails had lengthened into points that looked unsettlingly like claws. "What's happening to me?" I whispered, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. Kieran approached slowly, his expression a mixture of awe and vindication. "You're remembering what was hidden. The wolf inside you is awakening." "That's not possible," I protested, even as I felt something stirring beneath my skin. Wild, ancient, and undeniably powerful. "I'm human. I've always been human." He knelt before me, his amber eyes reflecting my own confusion back at me. "You are the daughter of Lyra Mooncrest, my father's younger sister and heir to the Northern Throne. She disappeared 23 years ago, during the Great War between the packs. Everyone believed she'd been killed." I shook my head, struggling to process his words. "No. My mother was a village healer. She was human." "She was the most powerful wolf shifter of her generation," he countered gently, "and she chose to hide among humans, suppressing your true nature with herbs and binding spells to keep you safe. From what?" His expression darkened. "From those who murdered my parents and sought to end our bloodline completely." A memory surfaced, Mother grinding bitter herbs by candlelight, making me drink the foul concoction every new moon. "For your health," she'd always said. Had those remedies been designed not to strengthen me but to weaken part of me? "If what you say is true," I said slowly, "then you are my cousin," he supplied, "though distant enough that the ancient laws still permit." He trailed off, his gaze dropping briefly to my lips before he collected himself. "The throne is your birthright, Alara. You are the true Alpha Queen." I laughed, the sound edged with hysteria. "I can barely walk without limping. How could I possibly lead a pack of wolf shifters?" In answer, he took my hand and pressed it against my right thigh, the leg that had pained me since childhood. "The binding spell is broken now. Try to stand." Skeptical but curious, I pushed myself upright. For the first time in memory, no pain shot through my damaged limb. I took one step, then another, marveling at the easy strength flowing through me. "This can't be real," I whispered. "There's one way to be certain." Kieran's voice dropped lower, more intimate. "Let your wolf free, Alara. She's been caged too long. I don't know how." "Close your eyes," he instructed. "Feel her inside you. She's always been there, waiting." I did as he suggested, closing my eyes and turning my attention inward. At first, I felt nothing beyond my own racing pulse. Then, a presence, wild and ancient, pressing against the boundaries of my consciousness. Not separate from me, but a deeper, more primal version of myself. "I feel her," I breathed awestruck. "Don't fight her," Kieran murmured. "Let her come forward." The change began slowly, a pleasant warmth spreading through my limbs, my skin prickling as if touched by static. Then a sudden rush of sensation so intense I gasped, my body contorted, bones shifting and reforming with surprisingly little pain. Fur erupted across my skin, white as moonlight. My senses exploded with information. Scents, sounds, sensations I'd never imagined possible. When it ended, I stood on 4 paws, my consciousness both my own and somehow expanded. I could smell Kieran's shock and wonder, could sense the ancient magic pulsing through the sacred grounds, could feel the pull of the moon overhead like a physical touch. "The white wolf," Kieran breathed, dropping to one knee before me. The prophecy was true. Before I could question what he meant, the sound of approaching footsteps reached my newly sensitive ears. Many footsteps, moving quickly through the forest. Kieran tensed, rising to his feet and positioning himself protectively before me. "It seems we have company," he growled, his form already beginning to shift. "Your stepfather must have rallied the villagers. They've crossed into pack territory, a direct violation of the treaty." Panic surged through me. In this new form I felt powerful, but utterly unprepared. I had no idea how to fight, how to defend myself. "How do I change back?" I tried to ask, but only a soft whine emerged from my throat. Kieran, now fully transformed into a massive black wolf, nudged me gently with his muzzle. "Stay behind me," his thoughts somehow reaching mine. "I'll protect you until you learn to protect yourself." The first of the villagers burst into the clearing, carrying torches and crude weapons. My stepfather led them, his face contorted with rage and fear. Behind him came Elder Karina, her expression grave but unsurprised, as if she had expected this outcome all along. "There she is!" my stepfather shouted, pointing at me with a shaking finger. "The abomination! I always knew there was something wrong with her." Kieran snarled, the sound sending several villagers stumbling backward in terror. He advanced slowly, teeth bared, radiating lethal intention. Elder Karina raised her hand, halting both the villagers' advance and Kieran's threatening posture. "Alpha King," she called, her voice carrying surprising strength. "We come not to fight but to witness." The prophecy foretold this night. Kieran hesitated, his massive form still shielding mine. What prophecy? I wondered, the thought inadvertently projecting to him. "I don't know," came his response, "but I don't trust them." More figures emerged from the trees. Not villagers this time, but wolf shifters in human form, dressed in ceremonial attire. They moved to form a circle around the clearing, their expressions solemn. "The white wolf returns," one of them intoned, an elderly man with silver hair and ritual scars across his face. As was promised when the moon last wept blood, my stepfather spat on the ground. "She's no wolf. She's a mistake, a burden I've been forced to carry since her mother died. If she's one of you, then take her and be done with it." The elderly shifter turned cold eyes toward him. "This woman is the rightful queen of the Northern Territories. Address her with disrespect again, and I will personally tear out your heart." A hush fell over the clearing. I stood frozen, overwhelmed by revelations coming too quickly to process. Queen? Prophecy? The weight of expectations I never asked for suddenly pressed down upon me, threatening to crush what little certainty I had left about my identity. In the tense silence, a new sound emerged, the rhythmic beating of drums, growing louder as more wolf shifters materialized from the darkness. They formed a procession, carrying something between them, a massive silver throne, ornate and ancient, which they placed at the edge of the stone circle. Kieran shifted back to his human form, seemingly unconcerned with his nudity, as he addressed the assembly. "What is the meaning of this, Elder Rowan?" The silver-haired man bowed deeply. The signs aligned. The throne of the true Alpha Queen has been awakened from its slumber. It awaits her claim. He turned his gaze to me, still in wolf form, uncertainty radiating from every line of my body. If she is truly Lyra's daughter, truly the white wolf of prophecy, the throne will accept her. My stepfather lunged forward suddenly, a knife gleaming in his hand. "I'll not bow to the creature I raised from the dirt." Before anyone could react, he hurled the blade directly at my heart. Time seemed to slow as the knife spun through the air toward me. My newly awakened instincts screamed to move, but shock kept me frozen in place. Then Kieran was there, his hands snatching the blade from midair, mere inches from my chest. In the same fluid motion, he hurled it back. The knife embedded itself in the ground between my stepfather's feet, the handle quivering with the force of the throw. "The next one goes through your throat," Kieran growled, his voice barely human. My stepfather stumbled backward, terror finally overcoming his rage. The villagers behind him murmured anxiously, some already retreating toward the forest edge. Elder Karina stepped forward, her weathered face impassive. "Enough blood has been spilled over old hatreds. Tonight is about restoration, not vengeance." She turned to me, her eyes softening. "Child, you must complete the claiming. The future of both our peoples depends on it." I looked from her to Kieran, to the massive silver throne gleaming in the moonlight. unsure how to proceed in this unfamiliar body. Think of your human form, Kieran's voice entered my mind. Visualize the change. I closed my eyes, focusing on the memory of my own body. Not the weak, sickly vessel I'd inhabited for years, but something new, something stronger. The transformation came easier this time, a gentle wave of sensation rather than the shocking tide of the first change. When I opened my eyes, I stood on 2 legs again, but acutely aware of the wolf waiting just beneath my skin. I glanced down, relieved to find my ceremonial gown had somehow survived the transformation, though it now hugged curves I didn't recognize as my own. My body felt different, taller, stronger, the sickly pallor replaced by healthy vitality. "The white wolf stands revealed," Elder Rowan announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the clearing. "Let the claiming commence." Kieran approached me slowly, as if afraid I might bolt. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," I answered honestly. Everything I thought I knew about myself was a necessary deception, Elder Karina interjected, moving closer. "Your mother made great sacrifices to keep you safe, child, after the slaughter of the royal family. She feared you would be next. She came to our village, knowing the old treaties would offer some protection, while she raised you away from those who would do you harm." "Who?" I demanded. "Who wanted me dead?" A shadow crossed Kieran's face. "The Southern Pack. They've always coveted our territories. 23 years ago, they orchestrated an attack during peace negotiations. My parents, the king and queen, were killed. Your mother barely escaped with you." "And you?" I asked, suddenly realizing the timeline meant he would have been just a child himself. "I was fostered in the Eastern Territories at the time. When I returned," his jaw tightened, "I found only ashes and grief. Until tonight, I believed my entire bloodline had been exterminated." Elder Rowan cleared his throat. "The Southern Alpha arrives within the week to negotiate new boundaries. If we are to prevent another massacre, the Northern Pack must present a united front." The implications settled heavily upon me. "You need me to take the throne. It is your birthright," Kieran said. "But more than that, your existence changes everything. The white wolf is a symbol of ancient power in our culture. Your appearance now, when tensions between packs are at their highest in generations." He trailed off, his expression troubled. "It is no coincidence," Elder Karina finished. "The prophecy speaks of the white wolf's return in our darkest hour. When blood moon rises and alliances crumble, the hidden heir shall emerge, neither human nor wolf alone, but both in perfect balance." I shook my head, overwhelmed. "I know nothing about being a wolf, let alone a queen. I've spent my life believing I was too weak to matter." "That weakness was artificial," Kieran explained gently. "The binding herbs your mother gave you suppressed your wolf, but they also poisoned you slowly. That's why you were always ill." The revelation struck me like a physical blow. All those years of suffering, of being mocked and dismissed, of believing myself fundamentally broken. All of it deliberate. Necessary, perhaps, but no less painful to contemplate. "The throne awaits," Elder Rowan prompted, gesturing to the silver seat that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. "If you are truly the heir, it will accept you. If not..." He left the consequence unspoken. I moved toward it uncertainly, each step feeling momentous. The assembled wolves and villagers parted before me, creating a path. As I approached, the carvings on the throne became clearer. Wolves running through forests, battles fought beneath ancient moons, and at the crest, a lone white wolf with eyes that seemed to follow my movement. "What must I do?" I asked, stopping before it. "Place your hands on the armrests," Elder Rowan instructed. "The throne will do the rest." I hesitated, suddenly afraid. What if it rejected me? What if this was all some elaborate mistake? Kieran moved to stand beside me, his presence steadying. "I'll be right here," he promised softly. Drawing a deep breath, I placed my palms on the cold silver. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a jolt of energy surged through my body, and the throne began to glow with blinding white light. Voices filled my head, generations of alpha queens, their memories and wisdom pouring into me in a torrent I could barely comprehend. I saw my mother as she once was, fierce and beautiful, Running through moonlit forests in her white wolf form, I witnessed the attack that killed Kieran's parents, saw my mother fleeing with an infant wrapped in blood-stained blankets. I experienced her grief as she mixed the herbs that would hide my true nature, felt her tears falling as she forced the bitter brew down my throat year after year, knowing it was slowly poisoning me but seeing no alternative. When the visions finally receded, I found myself seated on the throne, the metal now warm beneath me. The clearing had fallen completely silent. Every face turned toward me in awe or fear or some combination of both. "The throne has accepted her," Elder Rowan announced, dropping to one knee. Around the clearing, the wolf shifters followed suit, even Kieran bowing his head in deference. My stepfather's face contorted with a complex mixture of emotions: hatred, fear, and something that might have been regret. "What does this mean for the village?" he demanded. "We've fulfilled our part of the treaty by providing a mate. Are we free from your demands now?" Elder Karina silenced him with a sharp gesture. "The claiming is not yet complete," she said, turning to Kieran. "Alpha King, will you accept this union? Will you take Alara Mooncrest as your mate and queen?" Something flickered in Kieran's eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps, or conflict. "The situation has changed," he said carefully. "Alara is not merely a village girl chosen for a political arrangement. She is the rightful queen of the Northern Pack. The decision must be hers." All eyes turned to me expectantly. I sat straighter on the throne, trying to project a confidence I didn't feel. "I need time," I said, surprised by the authority in my voice. "This is too much to process in one night." Elder Rowan frowned. "The Southern Alpha arrives in 5 days. Without a unified leadership, we show weakness. Then you have 4 days to teach me what I need to know," I responded, a new steel entering my tone. "I will not be rushed into decisions that will affect both our peoples for generations to come," a murmur ran through the assembled crowd. Surprise from some, approval from others. Kieran's expression remained unreadable, but something like respect flickered in his eyes. "As for the village," I continued, turning to my former community, "no one will go hungry this winter. The treaty will be honored, but its terms may be renegotiated to better serve both sides." I fixed my stepfather with a level gaze. "Those who have shown cruelty will not be forgotten, but neither will they be punished without cause." He blanched, dropping his eyes first. "The Queen has spoken," Elder Karina announced, satisfaction evident in her voice. "The claiming ceremony will resume in 4 days' time, when the blood moon rises. Until then, Alpha Kieran will instruct her in our ways." The pronouncement sent a ripple of reaction through the crowd. Wolf shifters nodded in approval, while villagers exchanged uncertain glances. Gradually, under Elder Rowan's direction, both groups began to disperse, the villagers returning to Blackthorn, the pack members retreating deeper into the forest toward what I presumed was their settlement. Soon only Kieran, the elders, and I remained in the clearing. The silence stretched uncomfortably until Elder Karina approached the throne. "You handled that well," she said, her voice gentler than I'd ever heard it. "Your mother would be proud." The mention of my mother brought a fresh wave of grief and confusion. "You knew, didn't you? All these years you knew what I was." She nodded slowly. "I helped Lyra when she first came to us. She made me swear to protect her secret, to help her keep you hidden. Why didn't you tell me after she died?" "The danger hadn't passed," she replied simply, "and you weren't ready." Before I could question her further, Elder Rowan cleared his throat. "The hour grows late. The Queen must be brought to the Packlands before dawn." Kieran nodded, then approached the throne and offered me his hand. "Come. There's much to show you." I hesitated, suddenly unsure. Despite the strength flowing through my new body, despite the throne's acceptance and the wolf's awakening, I felt utterly adrift. Hours ago, I had been Alara Thorne, the sickly village girl no one expected to survive the claiming. Now I was supposedly Alara Mooncrest, Alpha Queen of the Northern Pack, heir to powers and responsibilities I barely understood. As if sensing my turmoil, Kieran's expression softened, "One step at a time," he said quietly. "That's all any of us can manage." I took his hand, allowing him to help me rise from the throne. The moment our skin connected, a spark of awareness shot through me. Not entirely unpleasant, but startling in its intensity. From Kieran's slight intake of breath, I knew he felt it too. The elders exchanged knowing glances that I chose to ignore. The throne must return to the sanctuary until the claiming is complete, Elder Rowan said. At his gesture, several wolf shifters emerged from the shadows to carefully lift the massive silver seat. As they carried it away, I felt a strange sense of loss, as if part of me were leaving with it. Will I see it again before the ceremony? If you wish, Kieran answered. Though traditionally the Alpha Queen approaches it only during formal occasions. More traditions, more protocols I didn't know. The weight of everything I needed to learn pressed down upon me. Where do we begin? I asked, feeling overwhelmed. With the basics, he replied. First, you should meet your pack. The word sent a thrill of both excitement and trepidation through me. My pack, people, wolves, I was supposedly born to lead, though I knew nothing about them or their ways. We began walking deeper into the forest, following a path visible only to our enhanced senses. The night seemed alive around us, full of sounds and scents I was only beginning to identify. My body moved with a grace I'd never experienced before, each step sure and strong where once I'd limped and struggled. You'll adjust quickly, Kieran observed, watching me catalog these new sensations. The wolf instincts are born in you, merely dormant until now. Nothing feels real, I admitted. I keep expecting to wake up in my bed in the village, the same as always. His expression darkened. Your life there was the illusion, Alara. This... He gestured to the forest around us, to my transformed body. This is your reality, your birthright. A birthright I know nothing about, I pointed out. I don't know your customs, your history, your expectations. I don't even know how to control this new body properly. That's why I'm here, he said simply. To teach you. We walked in silence for a while, the distance between us charged with unspoken questions. Finally, I gathered my courage to ask the most pressing one. The claiming ceremony, I began hesitantly. What exactly does it entail? Kieran's stride faltered almost imperceptibly before he regained his composure. It's a binding ritual, he explained, his voice carefully neutral. Traditionally, between the Alpha King and his chosen mate, it forms a connection that cannot be broken in life. Like marriage? More permanent, he replied. Humans can divorce, wolf shifters mate for life. Once the bond is formed, he hesitated, searching for words. It's a joining of souls, not just bodies. You would feel my emotions as I would feel yours. Distance would become painful after too long. If one dies, the other rarely survives the severance. I absorbed this in silence, the implications staggering. And there's no alternative? If I'm to be queen, I must also be your mate? A muscle twitched in his jaw. That was the old way, yes. The Alpha King and Queen ruled together, their bond ensuring unity in the pack. He glanced at me. But these are unprecedented circumstances. You are queen by blood, not by claiming. The council may accept a different arrangement. Relief and an unexpected twinge of disappointment warred within me. You don't want the claiming, I stated, trying to keep my voice even. Kieran stopped walking, turning to face me fully. In the dappled moonlight filtering through the canopy, his expression was intense, almost pained. What I want is irrelevant. For 5 years, I've ruled alone, making decisions I thought necessary for our survival. Now you appear, a miracle I never dared hope for. And everything changes. That doesn't answer my question, I pressed. His gaze dropped to my lips for a fleeting moment before returning to my eyes. I won't force you into a lifelong bond you don't understand or desire, he said finally. Not even to secure my throne. It's not your throne, I reminded him softly. Apparently it's mine. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. I've bled for this pack, killed for it, sacrificed everything to keep it safe after your mother abandoned us. Don't mistake my courtesy for weakness, Alara. Queen or not, you know nothing of what it takes to lead. His words stung, but I recognized the truth in them. Then teach me, I challenged. If I'm to make an informed decision about the claiming, about my role, I need to understand everything, including you. The tension between us crackled like lightning before a storm. For a moment, I thought he might walk away, might dismiss me as the ignorant village girl I'd been mere hours ago. Instead, he surprised me. Fair enough, he conceded, something like respect entering his expression, but understanding goes both ways. If I'm to consider binding my life to yours, I need to know who you truly are. Not just the queen the prophecy promised, but the woman beneath the crown. The intimacy of his words sent a flush of heat through me. Before I could respond, a howl pierced the night, urgent, alarmed. Kieran's head snapped toward the sound, his body tensing. "What is it?" I asked, suddenly alert to the change in his demeanor. "Intruders," he growled, already beginning to shift. "Southern scouts. They shouldn't be this deep in our territory." Fear spiked through me. The ones who killed your parents, who wanted me dead. His half-transformed face was terrible and beautiful, caught between human and wolf. "Stay close to me," he ordered, his voice distorted by elongating jaws. "If they discover who you are before we're prepared." He didn't finish the thought, but he didn't need to. The danger was clear in every line of his body as he completed his transformation. The massive black wolf before me radiated lethal intent, muscles coiled and ready beneath glossy fur. "Can you shift again?" his voice asked in my mind. I closed my eyes, searching for the wolf within. She came forward eagerly this time, the transformation smoother and quicker than before. When it completed, I stood on 4 paws beside Kieran, my white fur almost luminous in the darkness. "Stay behind me," he instructed. "If there's trouble, run for the packlands. Follow my scent." Before I could protest, he took off through the underbrush, moving with deadly silence despite his size. I followed as best I could, still awkward in this new form, but driven by instincts that seemed to know what to do even if my conscious mind didn't. We crested a small rise, and Kieran dropped into a hunting crouch, signaling me to do the same. Below us, moving stealthily through a ravine, were 3 wolf shifters in human form. They wore dark clothing marked with unfamiliar insignia, and they moved with the practiced precision of trained scouts. "Southern pack," Kieran confirmed grimly. "They're not supposed to cross our borders until the formal delegation arrives." "Are they looking for me?" I asked, the thought sending a chill through me despite my fur. "I don't know," he admitted. "But we can't take chances. We need to—" His thought cut off abruptly as one of the scouts below us froze, lifting his head to scent the air. "Wolf," he hissed to his companions. "Close." The other 2 immediately spread out, drawing weapons that gleamed with an unsettling blue light. "Silver-tipped," one muttered. "Remember, we need one alive for questioning." Kieran's growl reverberated through my mind. "Run," he ordered. "Now." Instead, I shifted my weight, preparing to stand my ground beside him. "I won't leave you. This isn't a debate," he snapped. "You're untrained and they're armed with weapons that can kill you. Get back to the pack." Before I could argue further, the wind shifted, carrying our scent directly to the scouts below. Their heads snapped up in unison, eyes widening as they spotted us on the ridge. "The Alpha," one breathed. "And is that white fur?" another confirmed, his voice rising with excitement. "It can't be." "Take them both," the leader ordered, raising his weapon. "The queen will want to see this for herself." "Queen?" I had time to wonder before Kieran launched himself down the slope, a black blur of fury and fang. I hesitated only a moment before following, instinct overpowering reason as I hurled myself into my first battle. The world narrowed to flashes of movement and sensation, the acrid scent of fear and aggression, the metallic tang of blood, the dull thud of bodies colliding. Kieran moved like shadow given form, his massive jaws closing around the arm of the first scout before the man could raise his weapon. Bone crunched. A scream tore through the night, and the silver-tipped blade fell uselessly to the forest floor. I hesitated at the edge of the fray, all my newfound strength suddenly inadequate in the face of trained killers. One of the scouts spotted me, his eyes widening with recognition and something like religious awe. "The White Wolf," he breathed. After all this time, he lowered his weapon slightly, which proved to be his fatal mistake. Kieran, having dispatched the first attacker, materialized behind him with terrible swiftness. The scout had no time to scream before Kieran's teeth found his throat. The third scout, the leader, assessed the situation with cold calculation. His companions lay broken and bleeding, while Kieran stood between him and me, hackles raised, muzzle stained crimson. "You've grown vicious in your grief, Blackwood," the man said, slowly raising his hands in apparent surrender. The boy I knew would never have killed so efficiently. Kieran's growl deepened, but he didn't attack. I sensed his confusion, felt it echo through the strange connection forming between us. "Don't recognize me?" The man's scarred face twisted into something like a smile. "I suppose it has been a long time. I was your father's trusted general, after all." Before the Queen opened my eyes to his weakness, understanding and rage poured from Kieran in equal measure. His thoughts, razor sharp with fury, cut through to me. Thorn. He was there the night my parents died. He betrayed them. The name struck me with physical force. "Thorn?" I questioned, the coincidence too great. The man's eyes shifted to me, narrowing with cunning assessment. "So, the rumors are true. Lyra's brat survived." His gaze returned to Kieran. "Does she know, I wonder? Does she know what really happened that night?" Kieran lunged forward, but Thorn was prepared. With inhuman speed, he sidestepped the attack, simultaneously drawing a concealed blade from his boot. The weapon flashed in the moonlight as it arced toward Kieran's exposed flank. I moved without conscious thought, white fur streaking through darkness as I threw myself between them. Pain exploded along my shoulder as the silver-tipped blade sliced through fur and flesh. The agony was immediate and intense, unlike anything I'd experienced. A burning that seemed to spread through my veins with each heartbeat. Kieran's roar of rage shook the forest itself. Through a haze of pain, I witnessed his attack, merciless, precise, and final. When it was over, Thorn lay motionless on the blood-soaked ground, his cold eyes staring sightlessly at the stars above. "Ilara." Kieran's frantic voice cut through my fading consciousness. "Stay with me." The silver. I tried to respond, but my thoughts scattered like autumn leaves in a gale. The world tilted sideways, the ground rising to meet me as my legs buckled. The last thing I felt was Kieran's warm muzzle pressed against my neck, his desperate plea echoing in my mind, "Don't leave me. Not when I've just found you." Darkness claimed me. I dreamed of running through moonlit forests, of soaring over mountain peaks on wings made of starlight. I dreamed of my mother's face, younger and fiercer than I'd ever known it, her eyes blazing with protective love as she whispered, "Remember who you are." I dreamed of Kieran as a boy, laughing beside a silver-haired man with his same amber eyes. I dreamed of blood on snow, of betrayal and sacrifice, of a pendant burning against my skin like a small sun. I dreamed, and in dreaming, remembered. When consciousness returned, it came in layers. First sound, low voices, the crackle of fire. Then scent, herbs, blood, unfamiliar wolves. And finally sensation, soft furs beneath me, a warm weight against my uninjured side. I opened my eyes to find myself in a large, circular chamber hewn from living rock. Elaborate tapestries depicting wolf packs and ancient battles adorned the walls, illuminated by flickering torchlight. I was human again, dressed in a simple white shift, my wounded shoulder bandaged with aromatic poultices. Beside me, curled in wolf form as if standing guard, lay Kieran, his massive black body rising and falling with each breath. As if sensing my awakening, his eyes opened immediately, alert, concerned, and unmistakably relieved. "You're back," he said, shifting smoothly to human form and reaching for a robe draped nearby. Once covered, he moved closer, his hand hovering near my bandaged shoulder without touching. "How do you feel?" "Like I've been stabbed with a poisoned blade," I replied hoarsely. "So, accurately terrible." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Your sense of humor survived, at least." His expression sobered. "You shouldn't have done that, Ilara. Silver wounds are dangerous for our kind. You could have died." "So could you," I pointed out. Was I supposed to stand by and watch? He had no answer for that, his jaw working with emotions he seemed reluctant to express. Finally, he simply said, "Thank you." The simple acknowledgement warmed me more than it should have. I attempted to sit up, wincing as pain lanced through my shoulder. Kieran's hands were immediately there, supporting me with surprising gentleness. "Slowly," he cautioned. "The healer extracted most of the silver, but traces remain in your bloodstream. It will take time to fully recover." Once upright, I took a proper look at my surroundings. Where are we? The royal chambers, deep within the heart of our territory. His expression turned wry. "Your chambers, technically." The reminder of my supposed status sent a wave of disorientation through me. "Thorn," I said suddenly, memories of the attack resurfacing. "He had my mother's name. Was that coincidence?" "No." Kieran's face darkened. "Valerian Thorn was once my father's most trusted general. He defected to the Southern Pact 25 years ago, betraying the royal family during peace negotiations. After the slaughter, he disappeared." His eyes met mine, troubled and intense. "I believe your mother changed her name to his as camouflage, taking the identity of her enemy to hide from him." The implications made my head spin. "Then the man who raised me was no relation to you," Kieran confirmed. "Just a villager your mother married to complete her disguise as a human widow." Another piece of my fractured identity shifted into place: the coldness, the contempt, the constant reminders of my inadequacy. My stepfather had never seen me as his blood, only as a burden thrust upon him by a woman with secrets. "Thorn mentioned a queen," I recalled. "Not me, someone else. The one he betrayed your father for." Kieran nodded grimly. "Ravenna Bloodmoon, Alpha Queen of the Southern Pack. She's ruled for 3 decades through fear and cunning. The assassination of my family was her doing, though we could never prove it. If she learns of your existence..." "She already knows," I realized. "Those scouts were looking for me specifically. The white fur. They recognized what it meant, which is why we accelerated the timeline." A new voice joined our conversation as Elder Rowan entered the chamber, accompanied by a gray-haired woman whose weathered face bore ritual scars similar to his own. "The claiming ceremony must take place tonight, not 4 days hence." I stared at them in disbelief. "Tonight? But I can barely stand, let alone..." "Your injury makes it more urgent, not less," the woman interjected. She approached, laying a gnarled hand on my forehead. Her touch was cool, assessing. "I am Sorsha, head healer of the Northern Pack. The silver poisoning is beyond my skill to fully heal. Only the claiming bond can save you now." I looked to Kieran, whose expression had gone carefully blank. "Is that true?" He hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "The claiming creates a shared life force. My strength would help purge the remaining silver from your system. And if we don't," Sorsha answered bluntly, "the poison will reach your heart within days. You'll die in agony, and the Southern Queen will have won without lifting a finger." The room fell silent, save for the crackling of the fire. I absorbed this latest twist with a strange sense of fatalism. 24 hours ago, my greatest concern had been arranging flowers on my mother's grave. Now I faced death by silver poisoning if I didn't magically bond myself to a man, a wolf I barely knew. "There must be another way," I said finally. Elder Rowan shook his head. "If there were, we would offer it. But time works against us. The Southern delegation arrives tomorrow, not in 5 days as we were led to believe. Ravenna herself accompanies them." Kieran's head snapped up. "Confirmed?" "Our scouts intercepted a messenger an hour ago," Rowan replied. "She comes under the guise of peace negotiations, but with your cousin revealed..." He glanced at me. "She will not leave while the White Wolf lives." Kieran began to pace, energy radiating from him in almost visible waves. "We're not ready. The pack is strong, but not strong enough to withstand a direct assault from the Southern forces. Which is why the claiming must happen tonight," Sorsha insisted. "United Alpha rulers, the prophecy fulfilled. It might be enough to make her hesitate, to force her into actual negotiations rather than immediate attack." They continued discussing strategy, their voices washing over me as I struggled to process everything. My shoulder throbbed with each heartbeat, and beneath the pain lurked a deeper chill that seemed to reach toward my core. The silver poisoning, I realized, already spreading. "Stop," I said finally, my voice cutting through their debate. "This is my life, my choice. I need to speak with Kieran alone." The elders exchanged glances but nodded respectfully. "Until moonrise," Rowan said, his tone making it clear this was as much time as they could spare. They departed, leaving Kieran and me in weighted silence. He spoke first, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "I never wanted it to happen this way." "Which part?" I asked, unable to keep the bitter edge from my tone. "Finding out I'm not human? Being poisoned? Or being forced to bind yourself to a stranger?" "None of it," he admitted, sinking down beside me on the furs. "When I chose you at the claiming ceremony, I had no idea who you really were. I saw the pendant and thought—" He trailed off, looking troubled. "What?" "I thought it was a sign," he said finally. "For 5 years I've ruled alone, making decisions that kept our people alive but not truly living. The pack needs more than a leader who specializes in survival. They need hope. Future. When I saw you standing there, defiant despite your supposed weakness..." His gaze met mine, startlingly vulnerable. "Something called to me. Not just the pendant. You." The confession hung between us, fragile and unexpected. "And now?" I asked softly. "Now that you know I'm your cousin, the rightful queen, a political necessity." His expression darkened. "Now everything is complicated by duty and prophecy." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "The claiming bond is sacred to our people. It's meant to be a choice, not a necessity. Yet here we are," I observed. "With no real choice at all." Kieran was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had softened. "There's something you should see before you decide." He rose, offering his hand. I took it, allowing him to help me stand. The room swam briefly before stabilizing, and I leaned against him more heavily than I'd intended. His arm came around my waist, supporting without confining. "Can you walk?" he asked. "If the alternative is dying of silver poisoning, I can manage," I replied, summoning a ghost of a smile. He led me through winding corridors carved into the mountain itself, occasionally passing pack members who bowed deeply at our approach. Their eyes followed me with wonder and hope. That felt like another weight upon my already burdened shoulders. We eventually emerged onto a high balcony overlooking a vast valley. Below us spread the packlands. Not the primitive encampment I'd imagined, but a thriving community nestled harmoniously within the forest. Stone and wooden structures blended with the natural landscape, connected by pathways illuminated with the same bioluminescent fungi I'd noticed in the forest. People moved about in both human and wolf form, their lives continuing despite the momentous changes occurring above them. "Our home," Kieran said simply. "Nearly 2,000 wolves live in this valley. They are craftspeople, healers, warriors, teachers, parents, all depending on their alpha to keep them safe." The weight of responsibility pressed down on me anew. "I know nothing about leading them. You know more than you realize," he countered. "I watched you handle the village elders and your stepfather. You showed both strength and mercy, the mark of a true alpha. One moment of decent improvisation hardly qualifies me to rule," I pointed out. "No," he agreed, "but your bloodline does. And this." He touched my uninjured shoulder lightly. "You risked your life for mine without hesitation. There is no more fundamental quality in a pack leader than the willingness to protect others." I turned to face him fully, searching his expression. "If there were no prophecy, no political necessity, no silver poisoning, would you still want this claiming?" The directness of my question caught him off guard. For a moment, his carefully maintained control slipped, revealing something raw and honest beneath. "I've ruled alone for 5 years," he said quietly. "Every decision, every burden, every sacrifice, all mine to bear. The claiming would mean never being alone again, in the most fundamental sense." His amber eyes held mine. "So yes, Alara, even without all the rest, I would want it. I would want you." The simple admission sent warmth coursing through me, temporarily eclipsing the chill of the silver in my veins. "I'm afraid," I confessed, matching his honesty with my own. "Of me?" he asked, his brow furrowing. Of losing myself. I've only just discovered who I truly am. How can I bind myself to another when I barely know my own mind? Understanding softened his expression. The claiming doesn't erase you, Alara. It connects us, but we remain distinct. Two souls choosing to walk a single path. And if I'm not the queen everyone expects me to be, if I fail, then we fail together, he said simply, and find another way forward. Below us, the valley began to change as twilight deepened into night. Lanterns were lit, casting warm pools of light among the trees. Wolves gathered in the central clearing, some shifting to human form, while others remained as wolves. The atmosphere was expectant, ceremonial. They're preparing, Kieran observed. The moon rises soon. The decision hung before me, momentous and final. I thought of my mother, the sacrifices she'd made to keep me safe, the identity she'd hidden to protect me. I thought of the village where I'd grown up. Always separate, always less. I thought of the pendant that had guided me here, to this moment, to this man. If we do this, I said finally, we rule as equals, not Alpha King with his claimed mate, but true partners. Kieran studied me for a long moment, then nodded, as it was always meant to be. Together we descended to the valley floor, where the pack awaited. They parted silently before us, forming a path to the central clearing where Elder Rowan stood beside a ceremonial fire. The silver throne had been placed on a raised dais, gleaming in the firelight. As we approached, a hush fell over the assembled wolves. I felt their eyes upon me, their hope, their curiosity, their judgment. The chill of the silver poison had spread further, making each step an effort of will. By the time we reached Elder Rowan, Kieran was supporting more of my weight than I cared to admit. The moon rises, Rowan announced, his voice carrying to the farthest edges of the gathering. Alpha King Kieran Blackwood stands before us with Alara Mooncrest, daughter of Lyra, rightful queen of the Northern Pack. They come to claim each other before the sacred fire, binding their souls as the ancients decreed. He turned to us, his expression solemn. The claiming cannot be undone in life. It is a bond beyond word or law, written in blood and spirit. Do you come freely to this ritual? I do, Kieran replied without hesitation. All eyes turned to me. The poison's chill had reached my chest, making each breath a struggle. Yet in that moment of decision, clarity washed over me. This was not the life I had imagined. But perhaps it was the one I was born for. Not the weak village girl, not the sickly burden, but something, someone, altogether stronger. I do, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Elder Rowan nodded, then produced an ornate silver dagger. The blood of the Alpha rulers, mingled and sealed by moonlight. He handed the blade to Kieran, who drew it across his palm without flinching. Blood welled, dark against his skin. He passed the dagger to me. My hand trembled slightly as I mirrored his action, the sharp edge parting my flesh with surprising ease. Join your hands, Rowan instructed. Kieran's fingers interlaced with mine, our blood mingling. The contact sent a jolt through me, not pain, but something electric and alive. His eyes met mine, amber depths reflecting the firelight and something more profound. By blood and moon, by fang and claw, these souls are bound, Rowan intoned. What nature has joined, let no power sever. The fire before us suddenly flared, reaching impossible heights before collapsing into embers. In the same moment, moonlight broke through the forest canopy, illuminating our joined hands with silver radiance. The sensation began as warmth spreading from our connected palms, quickly intensifying to a current that raced through my entire body. Kieran's presence flooded my consciousness, not thoughts precisely, but emotions, impressions, the very essence of him merging with mine while remaining distinctly his. I felt his strength, his determination, his carefully guarded hope, and beneath it all, a loneliness that mirrored my own. The silver poison in my veins met this new force and receded, unable to withstand the combined strength of our bonded life force. As it retreated, energy surged through me, clean, powerful, and undeniably wild. The wolf within me rose to meet it, no longer a separate entity, but fully integrated with my human self. When the sensation finally stabilized, I found myself standing straighter, the weakness and pain completely gone. Kieran's hand still clasped mine, the cuts already healing into thin silver scars that would mark us forever as claimed. "It is done," Elder Rowan announced. "Behold your Alpha Queen and King, united in blood and spirit." The pack erupted in howls of celebration, some shifting spontaneously between forms in their excitement. Through our new bond, I felt Kieran's pride and relief wash over me, along with something deeper, a tentative, fragile emotion he seemed hesitant to name. Elder Rowan gestured to the silver throne. The Queen must take her place. With newfound strength, I ascended the dais and seated myself upon the throne that had accepted me the night before. The metal hummed beneath me, responding to the completed bond. Kieran stood at my right hand, his presence solid and reassuring. "Tomorrow, we face the Southern Queen," Rowan reminded us, his voice pitched for our ears alone. "She comes expecting to find us weakened, divided. Instead, she'll find the prophecy fulfilled," I replied, surprising myself with the confidence in my voice. Through the bond, I felt Kieran's approval. "We still don't know what Thorn told her," he cautioned, "or how many forces she brings." "It doesn't matter," I said, a plan already forming in my mind. "She believes me weak, the sickly village girl who couldn't possibly survive as Alpha Queen." A smile curved my lips, no longer the timid expression of my past, but something with teeth behind it. Let her keep believing that, until the moment she doesn't. Understanding dawned in Kieran's eyes. Matched by a predatory anticipation I felt echo through our bond. "A trap," he murmured appreciatively. "She won't expect me to have mastered my abilities so quickly," I continued, "or to have completed the claiming bond already. Deception." Elder Rowan nodded thoughtfully. "A tactic she'll appreciate, if not the application." As the celebration continued around us, we refined our strategy, my newfound confidence bolstered by Kieran's experience and the wisdom of the pack elders. For the first time in my life, I felt not just accepted but valued. My perspective sought, my ideas considered. Later, as the gathering dispersed and we retired to the royal chambers, the full weight of the day's events finally settled upon me. I stood by the fire, watching the flames dance while processing everything that had occurred since I'd laid flowers on my mother's grave mere hours ago. "Second thoughts?" Kieran asked quietly, coming to stand beside me. I shook my head. "Not regret. Just adjustment. Yesterday I was nobody. Today I'm a queen with a kingdom to defend against an enemy I've never met." Through our bond, I felt his understanding, his respect for the magnitude of the changes I was navigating. "You were never nobody, Alara. You were always meant for this, even when neither of us knew it." I turned to face him, studying the features that had so terrified me during the village claiming ceremony. The scar that cut across his face no longer seemed like a mark of cruelty, but one of survival. The amber eyes that had burned with cold detachment now regarded me with warmth and something more complex. "What happens now?" I asked softly. "Between us?" The question hung in the space between us, laden with implications. The claiming bond had joined our souls, our life forces, but the physical aspects of mating remained unconsummated. Through our connection, I felt his desire, carefully controlled but undeniably present. "Whatever you wish," he answered, his voice low and sincere. "The bond is complete in the ways that matter for your health and our political position. The rest..." He hesitated. "The rest can wait until you're ready. If ever." The consideration in his response touched me deeply. Here was a man accustomed to taking what he wanted, to commanding rather than asking. Yet he offered me choice in this most intimate of matters. Impulsively, I reached up to trace the scar along his face, feeling him tense, then relax beneath my touch. "I may have been thrown into this destiny," I said quietly, "but I'm choosing how to embrace it, and I'm choosing you, Kieran. Not just as my political partner, but as my mate in every sense." His pupils dilated, the amber of his irises darkening with desire. Through our bond, I felt his control waver, then strengthen. "You're certain?" In answer, I rose on tiptoes and pressed my lips to his. The contact sent a shock wave through our bond, amplifying every sensation. His arms came around me, tentative at first, then with growing confidence as he felt my genuine desire echo his own. When we finally parted, breathless, his expression held a wonder I'd never seen before, as if he'd discovered something precious he'd thought forever lost. "Tomorrow, we face Ravenna," I whispered against his lips. "Tonight belongs to us." As moonlight streamed through the high windows, casting silver patterns across the furs of our bed, I surrendered myself to this new life, this new love. The village girl who had been mocked as too weak to survive was gone, transformed not just by ancient magic or royal bloodlines, but by the courage to embrace her true nature. In Kieran's arms, in the heart of the pack that was now mine to protect, I found something I'd never truly had before: belonging. And with dawn approaching, bringing with it an enemy who had destroyed my family and threatened my people, I made a silent vow I would no longer hide who I was. I would no longer apologize for my power. The Alpha Queen had returned, and this time she would not be silenced.